A very warm namaskar from India. Welcome all the delegates of SCAR 2022 to the SCAR Open Science Conference. This is something really strange where we are meeting virtually, and you must have seen the video that speaks volumes about the Indian culture and the mystic land that it is. I hope that you would relish coming back and coming through India physically in the years ahead. Well, I am Rahul Mohan, representing the National Center for Polar and Ocean Research based out of Goa. That's under the Ministry of Earth Sciences, and it's our proud privilege to host this 10th edition of the SCAR Open Science Conference. Well, the conference is, most of all you will know, that has plenary talks, parallel sessions, some mini symposia, and there are different discussion forums that keep happening. So this is an ideal platform where you exchange the science ideas pertaining to Antarctic science, or I would say rather precisely the Antarctic ecosystems. Definitely we are missing out on the physical meeting, but I'm sure that this will give you enough chance to interact with the people who are working in Antarctica. At the onset, let me welcome the SCAR President, Dr. Idong Kim, to the Open Science Conference for his opening remarks and address. He's an earth scientist by his profession, and he has dedicated his life to understand the earth processes in Antarctica. I've been fortunate to know Dr. Idong Kim through the Asian Forum for Polar Sciences, of which he was a founder member, and he has been associated with SCAR for a long time now. He has also been associated with the Korean National Committee on Polar Science and has a lot of contributions to Antarctica. Dr. Kim, may I now request you to give your address, please.
Dear SCAR colleagues, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the SCAR Open Science Conference 2022. For the past many years, SCAR Open Science Conference has been one of the most important events, bringing together researchers to engage with one another, exchanging the latest scientific findings in the Antarctic and Southern Ocean, while those outside of field of research come to find out about what SCAR does in and for the Antarctic. Due to the prolonged effect of a pandemic, the SCAR OSC 2022 is facilitated in a virtual setting following a SCAR's successful experience of hosting the SCAR Online OSC in 2020. Despite being in an online setting, the organizers have prepared great keynote speeches, numerous parallel sessions, and mini symposia designed to enable discussion on some of the latest scientific advances on the Antarctic and Southern Ocean. The global pandemic has made it difficult for Antarctic researchers to conduct meetings in person and discuss various matters relating to the science in Antarctica, and fieldwork on the continent has been reduced significantly. However, despite concern about reduced scientific meetings and fieldwork in the Antarctic, the significance and the importance of Antarctic science have not changed, but in fact have become more highlighted in recent years. One of the most recent publications made by SCAR, the Antarctic Climate Change and Environmental Report, clearly highlights the important changes occurring in the Antarctic. The report states that it is clear and evident that climate change is having significant impact on Antarctica's ice sheet, climate, and life, which has far-reaching global consequences. As part of global ecosystem, human survival and societal prosperity are directly connected to the global climate. Now that we are exposed to rapid climate change, efforts to find the causes, predictions, and mitigation measures of the change become the most urgent task facing humanity. Climate change and its impact on the ecosystem are the fastest and most remarkable in the polar regions, especially in the Antarctic and Southern Ocean. Therefore, effort to protect the polar ecosystem and provide science-based evidence and knowledge to the public through research on polar changes are highly important and valuable. SCAR's three scientific research programs are designed to focus on these important issues. SCAR SLPs, it's called Instant, Anti-Icon, Anti-Climb Now, began working in 2021, attempting to identify the impact of climate change on Antarctica's cryosphere and ecosystem and the role of Antarctica in global climate change. SCAR's work on the Antarctic is also deeply integrated with the global research program through extensive contribution to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, World Meteorological Organization, UN Decade Ocean Science, and other international bodies and programs. SCAR also have many other important science groups facilitating science of various disciplines in the Antarctic that are not directly connected to climate-related research. The SCAR OSC is exactly the venue in which researchers worldwide can communicate and exchange these research findings. It is undoubtedly SCAR's most important event through which not only SCAR's mission and vision of facilitating science of various disciplines come to fruition, but also helps to build relations and foster younger generation researchers to engage in Antarctic science. The sheer volume of registration of more or less 1,000 participants as well as over 900 abstract submissions for the conference show how much interest there is in Antarctic science. With unprecedented disruption caused by the pandemic, it had been a difficult challenge for all of us to adapt and move forward with our scientific research, especially for early career researchers. To adapt to the changing environment and also in line with the effort to reduce carbon footprint, SCAR hopes to set an example by enabling hybrid format meetings for future open science conferences. The Open Science Conferences will continue to evolve in its format to provide access both in person and online beginning from SCAR OSC 2024. Finally, I would like to express my sincere thanks to Dr. Ravichandran, Dr. Rahul Mohan, and the National Advisory and Local Organizing Committee members of India for their tremendous effort in making the online OSCs possible. I would like to also thank to Professor Stephen Chon and International Scientific Organizing Committee that have carefully planned the session in various scientific disciplines, catering to the need of variety of researchers interested in Antarctic science. My appreciation also goes to Dr. Chandrika Nath and the SCAR Secretariat for their tireless effort in ensuring that the OSC would run smoothly over the next few days. I hope you all enjoyed online session and the following discussions during the conference and hope this OSC will provide a place for researchers of all disciplines with an interest in Antarctic science to exchange, share, and collaborate with each other. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Kim, for your opening remarks and highlighting the vision of the Scientific Committee on Antarctic Research, SCAR. And may I now invite the Director of the National Center for Polar and Ocean Research, Mirza Javed Beg, whom I fondly call Beg Sahab, to address the delegates of the SCAR Open Science Conference. Incidentally, Javed Sahab is also an earth scientist and he has been looking after for more than a decade into the Antarctic operations. It's my privilege to invite the Director of NCPOR, Mirza Javed Beg.
Ladies and gentlemen, Greeting from India. On behalf of National Center for Polar and Ocean Research, a research institute under Ministry of Earth Sciences, Government of India, I would like to welcome you all to the virtual SCAR Conference 2022. Although we would have been happier to welcome you all in Goa for the conference, however, due to unprecedented situation of the COVID-19 pandemic, the SCAR 2022 organizing committee decided to host the conference virtually. It's a privilege and pride to host the SCAR 2022 conference that provides a platform to discuss one of the most pressing issues in the world, that is, the challenges and fate of Antarctica in the changing world and its worldwide implications. India is also celebrating the 75 years of independence and 40 years of India's presence in Antarctica and the decadal presence of India's third research base, Bharati, in Lasman Hills. The hosting of SCAR 2022 is like a cherry on the cake. National Center for Polar and Ocean Research is a unique Indian research institute dedicated to the polar and ocean realms. With a quest to understand the ends of the world, NCPOR is a pedestal to the Indian Polar Program to Antarctic, Arctic, Southern Ocean, and of course, the third pole, the mighty Himalayas. With the multi-institutional and multidisciplinary approach, NCPOR executes scientific expeditions to polar and ocean realms for better understanding of the polar regions and their connections with the tropical regions. Having logistic expertise and sustained scientific endeavor in Antarctica, NCPOR plays an active role and represents India in international communities like COMNAP, CAMLR, CEP, FOPS, to name a few. Being the hub to some of the sophisticated polar and ocean labs in India, including the only ice core laboratory in India, NCPOR undertakes research in domains spanning from the understanding of the past climate using ice and sediment cores to the present climatic variabilities, polar biology, polar environment, and so on. NCPOR is also a nodal agency for the geoscientific studies like the International Ocean Discovery Program, deep sea exploration, and the mapping of the exclusive economic zone of India. Through the Indian Polar Program, NCPOR, as well other Indian research institutes and universities, have been able to contribute to the Antarctic sciences and share the knowledge with the international Antarctic community. I hope that SCAR 2022 will be productive for all the delegates across the globe and play a critical role in moving a step forward in scientific collaborations and a better understanding of the present scenario of changing climate in Antarctica. Wishing you all the very best. Stay safe, stay healthy, and take care. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Javed Sir, for your address, and it's indeed a proud privilege to host the SCAR Open Science Conference. As they say, what happens in Antarctica doesn't stay in Antarctica. Therefore, understanding the significance of the ongoing changes in Antarctica with the impact on the Earth system and the connection that they have with the global Earth system processes is imperative that this year's theme of SCAR 2022 be Antarctica in a changing world. And to understand this theme better, we have a short audio visual for you, which will in itself speak about something about Antarctica in a changing world. Post the short audio visual, I would request Professor Naresh Pant who is a member of the International Science Organizing Committee of SCAR, as also the chair of the National Committee of SCAR India, to highlight the importance of the SCAR 2022 theme.
Dignitaries, fellow Antarcticans, friends, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot stop myself once again welcoming you, even though a formal welcome has already been given. And this is because we are missing the physical closeness which would have come from a physically present type of conference. However, the one positive out of this is that we are following the SCAR policy of leaving least possible carbon footprints in our activities. Well, while choosing the theme of this 2 decades old legacy of SCAR Open Science Conference, we chose Antarctica in a changing world to actually signify many things. It symbolizes the heightened significance of polar science in the present global warming context. Even amongst the polar science, it is the polar cryosphere which has been the focus of most of the attention. And a large component of open science conferences and this open science conference includes also the Southern Ocean. The Southern Ocean science is complexly interwoven with the polar cryosphere. So therefore, the theme actually reflects what is possibly required in a major way in the present science context in relation to the global climate change. Well, when we look at countries like India, which are located in relatively low latitudinal positions, there is generally a perception that polar science does not matters or does not relates in a major way to these locations or these countries. Well, the Indian ethos recognized this fact many millennium before the first Antarctic exploration was made. In our Maha Upanishad, a word Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam was given or was used, which implied that the word is a large family or one family. And possibly this connection between countries far located from poles but still influenced by the activity there is best reflected in this axiom. Realizing this, in 1983, India became a full member of the Antarctic Treaty System, and that was just 2 years subsequent to the first fledgling Indian Antarctic expedition. There are many dimensions to this relation. As a geologist, I can relate this very well because in not too past geological time, India was adjacent to East Antarctica. Well, of course, that time frame is too long for most of us, but in geological context, it is not too much. There is not only an association or similarity of the rocks in fossils, etc., but there are many other influences which link the low latitudinal countries or countries like in position of India to Antarctica. One of the major influence which again concerns us is the nature of precipitation and quantity of precipitation, and it includes both solid as well as liquid precipitation. Many of the Antarctic and Southern Ocean studies are bringing out this relationship in very, very vivid contrast. Perhaps one of the most grim implications of global warming, if one is to project, will be in terms of stability of ice sheets, and especially the stability of East Antarctic ice sheet. None of us actually, I believe, want to know the threshold at which the East Antarctic ice sheet will become unstable or is destabilized. So not only the main focus, but major output of many of the SCAR science guided or propelled work have contributed greatly to the understanding of ice sheets, not only in terms of the way they are today, but also in terms of how they evolved, when they evolved, and a possible prognostic outcome. Recognizing that for these prognosis as well as understanding, the sub-ice geology is an important factor. India just started a program which tries to infer the sub-ice geology of a certain domain in East Antarctica, that is entitled as GeoEAIS, or Geological Exploration of East American Ice Shelf. It is very difficult because most of the terrain of East Antarctica is covered by kilometers thick ice, and we hope that the outcome of this program will lead to many such programs all over and will contribute significantly to the science of the stabilization of East Antarctic ice sheet. I am also happy to mention that there were several projects earlier also, and to quote one, the Mass Balance Dynamics and Climate of the Central Droning Modelland, or MAD ICE project, which was a multinational project which attempted again to provide some unanswered questions about the behavior of the East Antarctic ice sheet, especially at its margin or where it is meeting and wasting in Southern Ocean. SCAR Open Science Conference, of course, represents coming together of all variants of the physical, biological and geosciences of this region. And not only that, also the cultural, legal, social and other aspects which are relatable to the polar domains, especially the southern pole. The OSC thus becomes kind of a melting pot where various science activities, the frontiers in the research come together and they lead to a oneness. We sincerely hope that the 10th Open Science Conference, celebrating 20 years of this biennial conference, will be one such milestone in this edition too. There is actually a strong interest displayed by the fledgling Indian Antarctic program and Indian scientists in the way, if I can statistically summarize that, around 25% of the sessions, one or the main conveners are from the community, and I hope that this will take root, will become a much bigger outcome. I am straddling the role both of a SCAR official as part of the geoscience, one of the chief officer of the geosciences group, as well as part of the local organizing committee. It's a small local organizing committee. We have tried to do our best to see that the conference is delivered in a way which pleases all. But there will be hiccups, there may be problems. Please bear with us. It is not on account of any problems with our intentions. I seek your cooperation in this context. It would have been wonderful to have you all physically. You would have seen the warmth of our reception, which would have matched the temperatures of the Indian summer monsoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Pant, for highlighting the importance of the SCAR 2022 theme. It's my now proud privilege to invite the Secretary of the Ministry of Earth Sciences, Dr. M. Ravichandran, to come and address the delegates. Something that I would like to share with you about Dr. M. Ravichandran. Dr. Ravichandran, as we fondly call him Ravi, is a physical oceanographer and an earth scientist. He is also the SCAR Vice President, and I'm sure that everyone would be keen to hear from the Secretary of Ministry of Earth Sciences, who represents the Government of India.
Greetings from India to all the revered experts and delegates. Welcome to the land of culture, tradition and science. It is a matter of pride and pleasure for the National Center for Polar and Ocean Research of Ministry of Earth Sciences, Government of India, to host the SCAR 2022 Open Science Conference. SCAR 2022 is the 10th edition of Open Science Conference with a focus on Antarctica in a changing world. The pride of the celebration has been doubling by its coincidence with the Platinum Jubilee celebration of India's independence and 4 decades of India's presence in Antarctica, as also a decade of India's research-based Bharati Larsen Hills. Since the commencement of the Indian Antarctic program in 1981 and India's association with the SCAR in 1984, India continued its quest to unravel the mysteries of Antarctica and never look back. India in subsequent years also initiated venturing to Arctic, Himalaya and the Southern Ocean realms. Antarctica inspires mankind due to its pristine environment and its unique and significant position that modulates the world's climate. Impacts of the human-induced changes first reflected in the polar regions like Antarctica, such as excessive use of chlorofluorocarbons that resulted in Antarctic ozone hole. However, united collaboration efforts of the world through protocols and other measures have resulted in mitigating the situations. The presence of India at various international polar fora indicates its willingness to contribute more towards the sustainability and its open approach to deepening the understanding of Antarctic process and its linkages to the rest of the world. Various studies across the world have identified the probable impacts of changing climate. The increase in carbon dioxide levels is absorbed by the oceans and increasingly by polar oceans, thus shifting the ocean pH and impacting the marine ecosystem. Similarly, sea level increase due to ocean warming and melting of glaciers may also modulate and change the ocean circulation and atmospheric pathways, thus affecting the world's heat and mass distribution patterns. These changes may have economic consequences on fisheries, agriculture through changes in monsoon patterns, extreme and frequent weather events, etc. To find a solution to the global issue of climate change, we all need to come together and work toward a common goal. This is well reflected in the declaration of UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development 2021-2030. Sustainability is the key, and India is open to collaboration to reduce the anthropogenic impact on the icy continent of Antarctica. For all the countries working in Antarctica, including India, science is the currency. We appreciate the zeal and dedication of all the researchers who have been working in extreme environment of Antarctica to understand the pressing issue of climate change. India has been constantly making strides in the Antarctic research in eastern Antarctica. Due to prevailing uncertain conditions in view of the COVID, the SCAR 2022 is online, virtually connecting researchers across the globe. However, we would like to invite you all to the land steeped in culture and tradition, integrating science, research, technology, and the environment into its ultimate wholesomeness. On the brighter note, virtual mode will provide an opportunity for all the registered delegates to share their knowledge and experiences on the different aspects of the climate change at the ease of their place and save time of travel. However, in the future, we would be glad to organize in-person meetings so that offline meetings not only empower the delegates with the knowledge exchange, but also enrich their experience by visiting a culture-rich country like India. We hope that various sessions and plenary talks will be productive and may result in future collaborations, thereby moving a step further towards finding solutions to the global issues of climate change. SCAR 2022 conference provides a platform to discuss and reinforce the urgency of taking action in connection to the changing climate. It's now or never. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. And I'm sure every one of us resonates with your statement that we need to come together to find solutions to the big agony of this earth, that is climate change. India has been in the polar regions for over 4 decades now, with its continued presence in Antarctica, and has now forayed and ventured into the Arctic domain, as also the third pole, the Himalaya. So now we can proudly say that we are into all the 3 cryospheric regions. We will present to you a short video highlighting the Indian polar science in a small capsule, which is about exploring the planet.
Antarctica, a land of the extremes. Cold, unforgiving, and challenging. In a quest to understand this pristine polar region, a new chapter was written in India's history in 1981 with the launch of India's first Antarctic expedition from the shores of Goa. The establishment of the first Antarctic research station, Dakshin Gangotri, marked the beginning of India's permanent involvement in Antarctic science. Since then, India has established 2 more research stations, Maitri and Bharati, that have been supporting Indian scientists in their endeavors to understand the frozen continent and contribute to the world of Antarctic science in a significant way. To address its ever-growing interest in conducting science in Antarctica and the Southern Ocean, a dedicated institute, the National Center for Polar and Ocean Research, was founded. With research in Antarctica growing exponentially, the institute soon expanded its research frontiers to the Arctic realm by establishing a research station, Himadri, at the International Arctic Research Base at Ny-Ålesund in 2008. The Indian Arctic Program also focuses on deciphering the mechanism of teleconnection between the Arctic and Indian monsoon. NCPOR has also embarked on a scientific program to understand the interaction between Himalayan glaciers and their response to changing climate by setting up a high-altitude research station, Himansh, in the Lahul and Spiti region. With its multi-dimensional and multi-institutional approach covering all 3 cryospheres and the ocean, the Indian Polar Science Program has earned the reputation for its expertise in science and logistics in these extreme polar environments. Come, join the Indian polar research community in exploring our planet.
It's an honor to have amongst us our Minister of Earth Sciences, Dr. Jiten Singh Ji. I would now kindly request him to give the inaugural address of SCAR 2022 Open Science Conference.
Namaste and welcome to the scientific community on Antarctic research. Ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed a proud moment for India under Prime Minister Narendra Modi to host the 10th SCAR Open Science Conference as it coincides with India's 75th year of independence, which is being popularly celebrated as Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Friends, we missed out a great opportunity to host you all in person in India. However, I'm sure the SCAR conference will surely bring you to India soon for forging ties with a country which has strong scientific history, as well as culturally we have one of the oldest living cities in India. We have scientific marvels in India, and we hope you can visit and see it and experience it yourself in person. As you all know, India has been in Antarctica for over 4 decades, with 2 of our operational research bases in East Antarctica, one of them Maitri and the other one Bharati. The year 2022 therefore also marks a decade of India's research at Bharati. I feel it's time we build strong collaborations for scientific research and logistic endeavors in Antarctica, and Antarctica, being the largest refrigerator, needs to be sustained in its pristine conditions for generations to come. This is also critical as the world faces unprecedented climate variability in the face of human force changes. This change in Antarctica will get reflected in the weather patterns and thereby influence not only the world's climate but also the economics and health as well. Therefore, it's time for the scientific community to talk in unison and work towards common goals of Antarctic heritage and scientific temper. India, being an active member of the Antarctic Treaty System, Committee for Environmental Protection, and Convention on Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources, as well as SCAR, reaffirms its commitment to conserve and preserve the Antarctic continent, including the surrounding ocean, through scientific studies and actions. India, under Prime Minister Modi, has extended full support for protecting the Antarctic environment and for co-sponsoring the proposal of the European Union for designating East Antarctica and the Weddell Sea as marine protected areas. India is also looking forward to using renewable alternatives to reduce the carbon footprints. India has already initiated green energy initiatives in the country by establishing the world's largest solar plant, the Bhadla Solar Park, with a capacity of 2,245 megawatts installed in Rajasthan, thus reinforcing its commitment towards the sustainability. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sure with the deliberation in the form of mini symposia, plenaries, talks, etc., the scientific community will enrich itself with the discussions of different domains in relation to Antarctic science, including humanities and a session of human impacts, environment and conservation. It is therefore time for more debate to happen on how to work together to answer specific science questions in solving issues related to climatic connections, both through atmosphere as well as oceanic realms. Before I conclude, I wish the SCAR Open Science Conference attendees the very best of deliberations and invite you all to visit India sooner than later in due course of time. Thank you all. Stay safe, stay healthy. Namaste.
Thank you, sir, for gracing this virtual event of SCAR 2022 Open Science Conference. We thank you for your support in making this event a grand success. Your presence at this inaugural speaks volumes for your support to the polar regions and Antarctica precisely. As the inaugural ceremony comes to a near end, for us, this is just the beginning of a 10-day long brainstorming sessions that will be following up. But before that, I'll request Dr. Thamban Mehlot, Antarctican, fondly we call him the Ice Core Man, who is member of the International Science Organizing Committee, as also the member of the local organizing committee, to please come and give his closing remarks.
Warm greetings from India to all experts and delegates of SCAR 2022. At the outset, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Dr. Jitendra Singh Ji, the Honorable Minister of State for the Ministry of Science and Technology and Ministry of Earth Sciences. Sir, it's an indeed honor and privilege for us that you have graced this occasion, which demonstrates the seriousness of the Government of India on Antarctic affairs. My heartfelt gratitude to Dr. M. Ravichandran, the Secretary of Ministry of Earth Sciences, who also happens to be the Vice President of SCAR, for being the pillar of support from the early days from bidding, planning, executing the entire SCAR 2022. I would also like to extend our gratitude to the SCAR President, Dr. Yadong Kim, for his support and guidance for the SCAR 2022. I would also like to extend our gratitude to the SCAR EXCOM and SCAR Secretariat for their active involvement, as well as the International Scientific Organizing Committee and the local organizing committee for their constant support and hard work, without which planning, management and execution of a conference of this magnitude would not be feasible. I would be faltering if I do not express our gratefulness to the Indian National Science Academy for welcoming SCAR to India, as well as the NCPR Director in Charge, Sri Javed Beg, for his constant support. Our sincere thanks are also to Messrs. Elban Private Limited, for helping to make this virtual conference a smooth affair and an experience that we all are looking forward to in coming days. I am also grateful to Rakesh Rao, who volunteered to make a few short films for this opening ceremony. Last but not least, I would like to extend our gratitude to all delegates and session conveners for their overwhelming response and contributing the scientific papers and sessions, and who will be actively participating in the coming days of SCAR Open Science Conference. We sincerely hope that you will have a wonderful time in the coming 10 days discussing science and ideas by forging synergies for better understanding the role and response of Antarctica in a changing global climate scenario. I take pleasure to conclude this opening ceremony, which would lead to commencement of scientific sessions of SCAR Open Science Conference. Thanks to all.
Thank you, Dr. Thamban, for your closing remarks. With this, we are coming to an end of the inaugural session. I hope that you will enjoy the Open Science Conference, and I wish that you can come to India in the near future and enjoy this vibrant, mystic and a cultural land. See you soon in India sometimes and hope to meet you physically. Namaskar.